Welcome everyone to IT's first online software session for our ArcGIS Online. Before we begin, just a quick overview of who we are and what we do, in case you're unaware at this point. Although, considering the fact that we are pretty much at the end of this year, you should probably already know. We are the ITE York University student chapter. That's the student chapter of the Institute of Transportation Engineers. We are proud to be York University's community of transportation professionals, hosting seminars, software tutorials like these, and in better times, and hopefully soon, field trips, volunteering, and other social events. Some of these are, of course, member exclusive. Membership is free, and you can scan the QR code to join up on campus groups and at ite.club.yorku.ca. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and be notified of any upcoming and archived content that we post after events have finished. So today we have Anastassios Daras, PhD. He is a higher education specialist at the Education and Research Group for Esri Canada. He received his master's in GIS Sciences from Clark University and completed his PhD in Geography at McMaster University. Now at Esri Canada, Anastassios develops GIS resources, conducts workshops, and provides expertise for academic research projects. His specialties are in health and transport geography, GeoAI, so that's deep learning, spatial data science, big data, semantic-based technologies, and real-time applications. And today he's here to talk to us about transit applications using ArcGIS Online. So with that, please welcome Anastassios. The floor is yours.
Thank you. All righty. So let's see, I will share screen. All righty. So, okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. So today we're going to do on real-time, we're going to talk about real-time transit, and we're going to do a hands-on workshop. And so before we go into it, I actually want to take a step back and discuss about transit applications, and then of course into the real-time aspect. The first thing that comes into my mind is when I think about transit is scale. And there are like two types of scales that I think of. One in a real-world application, real-world context. So the fact that the world's population is growing, it's projected to be 9 billion people by the year 2050, and it's becoming more urbanized, meaning that more people are shifting into cities, more metropolitan areas. And we have, when we have so much people, we have to think about the infrastructure, and transportation is one of those things that we have to put into a lot of consideration when whether it needs to be updated or to maintain it. And with these kinds of questions, we also have to think about then we would need big data. Now, we all know that big data is like a loose term and it's often like a marketing term. But you know how I define big data is essentially when you have so much data that your standalone desktop cannot handle it, either computational power or it exceeds the storage. So it needs to be either done in parallelization or amongst like distributed computing, so into like compute clusters. And you know, in transportation, now with the advent of IoT, so the Internet of Things, which is growing, that brings then that exponentially increases the amount of data being collected, and particularly, you know, the one that that changes things is real time. And when we need how we were going to do this in real time is we have these things called AI, or known as artificial intelligence and analytics. AI is actually divided into two types. So we have general AI, which is basically a system that is just as smart as like an adult human that has the same level of intelligence, but can generalize things on its own without being trained. But of course, you know, some AI experts say we're about a decade away to achieve this. Others say decades or even centuries, and some say we'll never. Of course, it really depends on the philosophical definition of what do you really consider intelligence and how do we actually measure that. The other one that we have, and we see this every day, including on our smartphones, is narrow AI, or known as weak AI. Now, just because it's weak doesn't mean it's actually weak. In fact, it's still really powerful today. It's what drives businesses, our research, and what an example of narrow AI, especially in a transportation context, is, let's say, object detection when we're counting the number of vehicles at intersections. That's one. Another is predicting things like traffic congestion or when an accident is bound to happen and where. And these AI combines with analytics, which analytics can be very generic, from like descriptive statistics to more advanced, like in this context, geospatial or geostatistical models, like interpolation as an example, or hotspot. But these two, scale and AI and analytics, they encompass how we apply this in transit. And one is, of course, monitoring the systems. So it could be public transportation network. So how well does it arrive? Is it overwhelmed by the number of ridership? For instance, like in New York, it might be so extensive, but their ridership, but their transit system, their subway system actually suffers because there's too many people, and with an outdated system, these things need to be reevaluated. And that's going to be the main thing that we're going to do today, that what we're going to see, especially in Calgary. Other things that you can apply for AI analytics with data in transportation is safety. So how safe is this road network, or how safe is this public transit? Keep in mind, these topics, monitor and safety, they can be interconnected to one another. They're not exactly separate entities. We also have management. Again, so going back to, it kind of relates back to monitoring. So how well does the transit system perform? The road network, let's say how congested it is. And that's something that we need to manage. And in order to manage, it often entails to planning. And planning is probably one of the first things that comes to my mind when it comes to transportation, and especially in this case for ITE, which my guess, because it's civil engineering, I think that's one of the biggest topics, and the world's going to need more transportation planners because of the urbanization effect in the next coming decades. And we can even see this in our backyard in Toronto. For instance, the Eglinton LRT is under development, so is the Finch line. And there's plans for the Ontario line, and even in the suburbs of Mississauga and Vaughan, they're developing new transit lines as well, because we know that the population is booming and we have a traffic congestion problem. And there's also the issue of, especially in Toronto, of going east to west or west to east. It takes more time than other ways. Then there's the oddball, which is not exactly related to public transit, but it still is a necessity, and it does relate back to the existing road network. And with supply chain, the reason why I put the Bitcoin cryptocurrency logo is because Bitcoin, or cryptocurrency, is backed by blockchains, and blockchains is now becoming a new idea, or a new that dimension into analytics, because it has a ledger that copies transactions multiple hundreds or millions of times over. And this is an excellent way to, particularly in the logistics field of optimizing supply and demand. So logistics companies are trying to optimize, like, in other words, we don't want to have given too much supply when the demand is low, but then we don't want to have high demand when the supply is low. So we have to keep, they're trying to optimize, and that's where blockchain comes in. And in the geospatial context, it's now starting to, there's this new concept called Geo Blockchain, which now is adding the spatial dimension to it. So we have to know where the where. Now, all of these components that you see here, all of them are backed. Now we're adding the spatial dimension. So in other words, the GIS, Geographic Information Systems. And that has become an emerging field. What you would see in the GIS world would be geospatial scientists, geo AI specialists, so on and so forth, because now companies start to recognize this value. And without spatial data, it's we can kind of say that planning is not exactly useful, or it would be harder to where you can actually put that transit line, for instance. The same thing with monitoring. Where is the transit system performing not chronically well? And then safety is another example of where are the traffic fatalities happening or traffic accidents are happening and why. So now that we pretty much unfolded the why GIS or having the spatial dimensions important, we need to have then a system or a software to do that. And with that, we have ArcGIS, which is a huge platform that's, of course, developed by Esri, which is the leading geospatial company, software company. And there's, at least how I see it, there's 3 types of ecosystems in the ArcGIS world. So we have first ArcGIS Online, which is what we're going to be doing. And ArcGIS Online is software as a service. So in other words, you can use the software tools or the apps that is online. So, and it's backed by the cloud, which means all you need is to get a license, and you can pay based on the number of credits that you want to get, and use those credits to do then some geospatial analyses. The plus side of that is that there's no maintenance required. So in other words, you do not need to set up your infrastructure to have it. It's all done by Esri's personnel handling and managing those servers. Or it's also, or in the case of universities, the universities themselves are the ones that handle it. And you can do a lot of geospatial analyses in it. The only thing I could say that's a little bit limited is regards to the scale, at least with the immediate tools that you would have at your disposal. But that doesn't mean you can't do anything. You still can do a lot of stuff with it. It's very, very powerful, and it has changed the GIS world. The other thing we have is ArcGIS Enterprise, which is pretty much similar to ArcGIS Online, except it's infrastructure as a service. And that one is you have your own infrastructure set up, so your servers, and you have to do the installation for ArcGIS server. There's a portal, which is the main page for members to have access to and to do the analyses or to publish or share content. And of course, that does require some maintenance. So you need to have some IT folks or at least one GIS administrator to manage these things. The plus side of with Enterprise is that it's scalable. So if you need more machines, that can be done, and you can scale up your geospatial processes. The word private is just more that it closed into that organization's environment. It's not exactly open to any people that are not members of it. But regardless, both of them are pretty much managed or accessible through ArcGIS Pro. And ArcGIS Pro is the workhorse of the ArcGIS ecosystem. It's pretty much like the desktop that you still can do a lot of. It has a plethora of tools available. And it enables you, the reason why I put these lines here is that it enables you to publish then your content up into either your ArcGIS Enterprise account or your ArcGIS Online account. And I will give a demonstration of ArcGIS Pro just a little bit towards the end of this presentation. Now, we're going to focus on ArcGIS Online. And the main point is to make maps. You do work with your data, so you do some pre-processing, sharing, or collaborating amongst with your peers. And of course, you analyze that data and see what are your outputs. And with these three major components, they both they enable you to share your maps and apps to involve stakeholders, or even just to the general audience that they would like to see your work. And it also enables you to collaborate amongst members in your organization or your peers. What changed a lot now than let's say 10 years ago is that now you can make a major impact by spreading the word of your project and what it can do. So the awareness has drastically increased. And here in ArcGIS Online, I mean, there is a lot of apps that you can use. What you see here are some of the logos. It's not all of the apps because there's just so many of them, but just to give you an idea what these logos are. So we have Collector, we have Navigator, Dashboards, Living Atlas, Workforce, Survey 123, Power BI, Business Analyst, City Engine, Drone to Map, Insights, Story Maps, Web App Builder, ArcGIS Hub, and let's see, actually, I think I may have forgotten. Oh, and we also have Experience Builder, which that is one of the newer ones. And each of them, these ones that I've listed, they have their own strengths or they have their own purpose to do. So for instance, if you have a drone and you need to map something out with your drone, that's what Drone to Map is for. If you're out to do field work and you're interacting with participants and you have a questionnaire, it includes getting geographic data from them. That's what Survey 123 is there for. City Engine is to do 3D urban planning. That's a really good interest, even in the transportation context. The ones that we're going to use today is dashboards, operations dashboards, our insights, story maps, web app builder. And we will discuss each of one of these, what they do. So here's an example of how you can use ArcGIS Online to its full potential, to its maximum potential here. What we have is operations dashboard, and we have here you can see a count of cars, bicycles, pedestrians, motorcycles within the spatial extent of of the area in Washington, D.C. And when you click on one of these intersections, these are CCTV cameras, you can see it pops up there's a pop-up that shows the current camera, at least the image, and then it gives you a count of cars to motorcycles. How is this done is the GIS personnel, they pretty much, first they gather the data and then they set up a pipeline that would be probably every minute interval. And then they do a deep learning model that's available in ArcGIS through the API for Python. And what they did is they most likely did trained an object detection model that is able to differentiate all the different types of objects, and then it sums up. And this is done in near real time. which then is most likely stored as a CSV file or as a shape file or feature class. And then it's then published directly to ArcGIS Online or Enterprise, depending what they have. And that would update the streaming layer, or even it could be a hosted feature layer. And then that layer that's embedded in that's added in the operations dashboard then updates every minute. So this is like an example of what how transportation can be applied with dashboards and in near real time. In my context, what I'm doing for Calgary is we're looking at public transit metrics. And the midterm, actually take a step back. So why Calgary? One is Calgary's population is 1.3 million. It's the fourth largest city in Canada. By 2050, it's projected to be 2.5 million. And so that's going to double, nearly double within less than 30 years. And when you think of that, kind of have to kind of look at the existing transportation network and see how well is it doing right now to plan later and to improve it. The other reason why I chose Calgary is they actually have a lot of open data, and it's pretty good data. It's high quality data. And the one that really struck me was their GTFS, which is their which stands for General Transit Feed System. And that exists on any transportation networks that has a GPS enabled on their vehicles. So the ones that do exist, at least to my knowledge, is in North America, Europe, and I think parts of Asia that they have that, and of course Australia and New Zealand. So that GTFS has been introduced, and now researchers, businesses, and municipalities or transportation planners, they use this to get the scope of their overall transportation system. How good is it? And I'm going to show at least what I mean by where you can get this. So here we have, this is Calgary Transit GTFS, and they publish these whenever they update their transit system. And if we go in, that's the latest one, which is April 8th. It's all in text files that gives a lot of information. So the trips that have the trip IDs, there is the stops. So the name of the stops, the stop numbers, the stop sequence, and the location of it. The stop times have the information of when that stop, like the expected stop time for that particular trip. And then we keep going so on, and we also have routes, which has the the string of coordinates that when you automatically do it in Python, you can convert that string of coordinates into lines or polylines. So these are the ones that are the most important thing, the foundation to do transit, to measure transit, the transportation performance. And that's one of the things you should get first, that before going into real time. And that's what the RT stands for. And this tells me here that Calgary, it updates every 30 seconds. So it's good enough to, it's pretty frequent enough to see where the vehicles are going. And the one that I've been using is this one. And let's see what happens if we click on that. It would actually show you here that it's vehicle positions.pb. PB is a protobuf extension, which you would need to parse that out in Python or any other programming language. And and that will then be an XML formatting, which then you would probably have to reformat that into a data frame or a CSV structure. And you can notice here that this is how many downloads there are. So I'm not the only one who's downloading. There's a lot of other folks as well that are using this data set. So with that, the goal is to identify and monitor transit performance, specifically headway metrics. There are other ways to measure the performance, but we decided to use headway because it's a good stepping stone. And headway is defined as the wait time or the gap at a certain stop between the wait time for the buses. So for example, let's say I'm at stop ID 6090 and I'm waiting for bus route number 1. And at this time, we have a bus that is expected to come at 2:15. Then, if I were to miss that, when's the next bus for that? And, according to their schedule time, it would be for 2:35. So we have then a headway of 20 minutes. So between 2:15 and 2:35. That's the expected. But when we put now with the real-time, the GTFS real-time, and we project the speed the bus is going at, we can then calculate the expected time it's going to arrive at that stop. And then from there, take the time difference and see if it's going to be late or on time. So if it's, let's say, the bus has been late by 5 minutes, and it's expected to have a headway of 20 minutes, then we can say that the actual headway is 25 minutes, which means it's late. If it's early, then let's say by 5 minutes, then we have a headway of 15 minutes, which is, it just gives you the overall picture of frequency. And this is done, we do this historically, and we're also doing this in real time. In real time, we're going to define this more like on an hourly basis, just because we need enough information to aggregate and then give the real picture here. Of course, the other objective is to collect it for big data. So right now, it's been collected since early to mid-January, and we have around 5 gigabytes of data. Doesn't sound like a lot. Of course, if we do it by days, 72 megabytes or 700,000 rows. And yes, it isn't big like what you would picture, hundreds of gigabytes or terabytes or petabytes. But what is still one of the biggest bottlenecks is the number of rows that's being processed. So at this point, we'll be probably having around 30 million rows of observations that needs to be processed through. And you need a really good, machine to compute all that, especially in relative pretty quickly. And with all that, it encapsulates to then we want to develop a big geospatial data solution, which you will see in the next slide. The long term is once we successfully get this up and running, we want to apply this model or this solution to other Canadian cities that have a GTFS. So Toronto could be one, Calgary's sister city, Edmonton, Montreal, so on and so forth. So then users or stakeholders can flip through any Canadian city that's available and see how well it does. And that could be hosted in a WebGIS Transit Hub. And the one that we would have would be in ArcGIS Hub. Another piece that I'm planning to do is to apply deep learning. So one is the object detection, which is pretty much the same thing what you saw in that example of the operations dashboard. Planning to do that in the Calgary for the traffic intersections and to calculate that, to compute how congested it is. The other step, which pretty much relates to object detection and other ancillary data that's being involved is Q learning. And this is kind of like a new, especially in the GIS world, it's kind of a new frontier. And Q learning is a reinforcement deep learning algorithm that's based on punishment and rewards. That pretty much the agent tries to figure out the best and most optimal path by maximizing rewards and minimizing being punished. And of course, this is usually entailed when you have a set of weights and rules involved. And that's what I plan to do in the transit network system to develop custom routes, custom public transit routes. So going to the architecture, we have first the GTFS RT being collected, as you saw earlier, being done in Python. So we collect it every 30 seconds and append it to CSV files. And of course, it's being parsed out, and it's being hosted in a small Azure virtual machine. I call it mini because it literally only has 2 CPUs. Doesn't really require that much power. Then what we do is we would transfer that data on an hourly basis through SSH into a standard, more like a standard Azure virtual machine that has 4 to 8 CPUs, so it can process that data on an hourly basis. We also, but however, we also need to ensure that the GTFS, so the stops, those text files that we saw earlier, we need to ensure that it's up to date. So let's say we have, today right now is April 17th, and we're processing that data. But that data that's being applied to the routes and stops that are based on, let's say back in March, could be outdated, and that could actually affect the accuracy. So we need to make sure that we got the most up-to-date GTFS, which in this case it's April 8th. And that's what we would have to do. But we also, what we would, with that, when we have those GTFS, those text files being translated to feature class or shape files, then we SSH that over to the Mega VM or that has 96 CPUs, so they can have that information. At the end of the day, the mini VM, which is scheduled 14 hours a day, the reason why we do that is to optimize the costs, operational costs. And we also have a good picture of from 6 a.m. in Calgary time to 8 p.m. So we can see how well the transportation performs, let's say during the morning rush hour commute to the afternoon, and then the evening rush hour commute into the late evening. And that's appended into a CSV, a daily CSV file, which then is, when it's done, it's transferred over to the Mega VM. The Mega VM, the reason why we're trying to test this out, which I have done, is to see how long it would take to process 700,000 rows of data that includes a lot of geospatial processes on 96, in parallel on 96 CPUs. And that took about, in one case, 15 minutes, which is pretty fast to process through. Whereas when I try 2 hours sample on my corporate machine, which has 8 CPUs in parallel, took about 6 minutes. So just really think about the time it takes to process that based on the number of CPUs you have at your disposal and the amount of rows you have as well, or the amount of data you have. And that's where I say that, we need to have a geospatial big data solution in there to see. But nonetheless, both of them, they both would send over, in this case, this VM would send hourly data to an Azure blob storage, which pretty much this is where you can store a lot of data pretty cheaply too. And the same thing goes for the Mega for the daily one in another Azure blob storage. And eventually, what we would do is we would have ArcGIS Velocity set up. ArcGIS Velocity has been around last year, and it's meant for to do IoT or near real-time data, or even crunch through big data. And it's the one that's meant to do is for ArcGIS Online only. And what that will do is it'll ingest this data that's being pulled in from the Azure Blob Storage as a feed, and then we save that as a hosted feature layer or stream layer, which then will be hosted inside the operations dashboard web app builder, and then it will be displayed in the ArcGIS hub. So this is like the entire architecture that you would see here. In our case, we're going to be kind of doing, we'll be doing these two with on a sample data. So just to show pre-processing the GTFS, those text files, make sure we have the right routes and stops that it's going to be used to process later. We ingest the real-time information, both hourly and daily. And then we do a lot of geoprocessing with the ArcGIS package and the ArcGIS API for Python. And even we also have other third-party packages as well, like GeoPandas. Then we extracted that spatial information, and we also do a quality assurance and quality check. The problem when it comes to transportation, public transportation networks, is that there's going to be some routes that have loops. And what I mean by loops in this GIS context is that when you click on a feature that has that loops, you're going to see that there are going to be at least two different values. And when we pretty much ping that vehicle location that's on that specific segment that has duplicates, we have to make sure it's going in the right direction. So for instance, if it's pinged on that segment and it's saying that if we don't do a quality assurance check, it could say that, well, it's going eastbound, whereas the reality is it's actually going westbound. So we have to ensure we add that layer in there to make sure that it does properly. Otherwise, the rest is inaccurate. We enrich the data with the stop time information and its expected stop time. We reformat that data. And then we interpolate. And the interpolate is what I was mentioning earlier, is that projected, we figure out the path that was recorded based on two different times of that same vehicle. So let's say vehicle ID had vehicle ID number 8000 was recorded at 125:30, and then it was again recorded at 126, but now it's at different locations. So we take those two pairs and then we retrace it along the road network that is along the transportation network. And then we calculate the distance. And then from there, we also take the time difference or the time deltas, and then we figure out then the projected speed from there. And then from that projected speed, we can then figure out the times it went through those, the projected, we can estimate the stop times that it goes through that path. And then we can figure out if it was projected to be late or on time. After that, then we can calculate the headway metrics from all for each of those stops that are related to one another. And with that, we store them, and we also put them in. We use that data for WebGIS and spatial analysis. So here's a data sample. This is the raw data that we see here. We have the trip ID, we have vehicle ID, so it's just the number of the vehicle. And then it's geographic coordinates, where they were, and the time. This is Calgary time. And that's what it looks like when you extract from the PB file and then redo it and then put it into CSV format. Then after all that processes that I was in the earlier slide that I mentioned, then you can see what it would look like. We have the stop ID number, the stop sequence, trip ID. So the first, for that stop ID, we have this first trip ID, and then the next one after that bus is going to be this trip ID. And when we figured out that, okay, in this case, it has a expected headway of 23 minutes between these two. This is the estimated arrival time for this first trip and the second trip for the other one. And we had the projected speed for both of these buses, and then we computed the headway, the actual headway, based on the delayness, based on the time difference from the estimated arrival to is expected for that one, and the same thing for the second one. And then we take the average, and then we subtract from the headway, from the expected headway from those time difference values, and then we get this. This is the actual. So in this case, we have a delay of 4.4 minutes. And the absolute final result is then we aggregate this, at least in this would be for both hourly and daily. We aggregate by stop ID and by, of course, like the routes, and then take all the means. So we have the projected mean in kilometers per hour, the headways and the headway mean, the actual headway mean, and then which route does it correspond to. So with that, this is what we're going to create today. As you can see here, this is an animation. We would take operations dashboard of taking the 2-hour sample that has been processed, and make it dynamic. And we can evaluate then the projected speed. We will also use Web App Builder, which you see here currently, just similar to operations dashboard, but it's more customized. And it gives you more widgets, which are making it more dynamic. And here we have, what we saw earlier was an animation of the projected speed of those vehicle paths that they were going over time. And then the last piece here is insights, which is going to be interactive statistics. And with that, after we would take all these 3 apps that we develop, and then we embed them in the story maps, which story maps is kind of giving it a story of your work. In this case, it's going to be cross-tab, so it allows the user to go across those 3 different functionalities for it. So I think before we dive into the hands-on demo, I think right now it is 2:20. I think we can take a 10-minute break and we resume back at 2:30. Is that fine? Perfect. Thank you. I'm gonna share my screen, and we will first. I will show ArcGIS Pro, which is going to be a little bit different. And let's see, hold on. All right, so ArcGIS Pro is the workhorse desktop I want to demonstrate. And of course, this is what it looks like when you open in. This is you connect into your ArcGIS Online account to have access. And just to show what's what there. Take a little bit of time. All right. So this is just an example of It's a little bit messy, but to get that data that we're going to use in ArcGIS Online, so this is the shape file that we have here, and this is actually the standard deviation for speed, but what we would normally do to publish that over to ArcGIS Online is we right-click and go to share, and then we would share this as a web layer. This is just like a little synopsis of what you can do with that, and then you provide summary, say transportation performance, and some tags, Calgary, transit, metrics, so on and so forth. And then who you can share, the folders that that you want to put it in. And then, when you're done, you can analyze it to make sure it's all housekeeping stuff is good, and you publish this online. I mean, this is just an example of how you can do that. So this is just an very, very super quick tutorial of like Pro and how it looks like and how to publish content. So now what we're going to do is go to ArcGIS Online, and I'm going to do that right now. Let's see. Let's see if it's this one. Is this one? Yes. So ArcGIS Online. So you type in, go to your organization account. And what you see here depends, of course, the kind of membership or kind of level you have. So if you're an admin, you would see more information about your organization, including the credits, so on and so forth. This is like the portal page. And here, when we click on the up in the right next to your name, you can see a slew of apps that I was talking about earlier. And these are some of the ones that are the most common or the ones that are currently available based on the license that you have. So we going to be handling dashboards, insights, story maps, and web app builders somewhere else. But what we'll do first is go to our contents. And you can see I have a lot of stuff in here, feature layers, even scripts that I did for deep learning in the past, and web mapping application. And there are several ways that you can add items to your machine. So you can add it from your computer. If it's a shapefile, it has to be in a zip file with all the extensions, URLs, applications, even cloud, so on and so forth. But what we're going to do is, and here we also have a create. So we have these ones. So the one I was talking about, web app builder, experience builder, which is pretty much like web app builder, but a little bit more developed. In other words, it's a little bit more customized with little to no programming involved. And to what we're going to do first, just for housekeeping, is let's just create a folder right here where it says folders, and there's a create new folder icon. And let's call this transportation Calgary. So we click create a folders just to keep things organized. There's obviously nothing in here. And let's see, go up into this tab here. And what we're going to do is create, we're going to click on map viewer. Okay, if you see that, that's just this is like the new map viewer beta. And this is still pretty new to me because there's another one. Actually, let's go to map viewer classic. That one is like still more, it's the one I'm most familiar with. Not right now. And we're going to add some data, which first I'm going to put in the chat the URL link. And if you have trouble following along, just let me know. Let's see, where's the chat?
If you want to access chat, I think the keyboard shortcut's also Alt-H.
Perfect, thank you, Tim. Okay, so I'm going to place this in here. This is the URL link. If we click on that URL link, we go in here, and this is publicly available. This is the transit metrics, the one that you saw in ArcGIS Pro that showed the projected speed and the headway metrics information. And you have all this information of the extent, the coordinate system that's on. And we click on this. It tells you the geometry type. And it gives you all of these fields. It's just what the list of fields that is in there. So if we go back to my map, we're going to do search for layers. And let me see, actually, hold on. Add layer from the web, because I have it in my online, but you guys don't have it. So what we do is just copy and paste that, add layer from the web. And it is an ArcGIS web service. So we'll add the layer. You'll see now data has been added. Let's change the base map because it's a little bright and we can't see. And we'll pick a dark gray canvas. There, now we can start to see the routes of Calgary. Next, what we're going to do is actually go and change the symbology. So we're going to go change the style in here. Click options, actually, hold on. Let's see. In the drop-down menu, we're going to do projected, we're going to do speed mean. So let's hit on that. And now you see ArcGIS Online automatically detected that it's a numerical field. So it gives you a list of these extra options now. We go to counts and amounts, select that for options. And we're going to classify the data. Do with 5 classes, which is going to automatically adjust. Natural breaks is often like the default, but I like to do things a little bit more manually, especially for speed. And kind of want to have that nice Google Maps traffic look that you see on the maps with those colors from green to red. And let's first click on this value and put 80. The next break after we'll do 60. We'll do 40. And then 20. This is for 20 kilometers per hour. And go to symbols, and we're going to find the appropriate color if it exists, which it does. So we will pick the last one here, this color ramp. And make sure your line width is set to 2 pixels so we can at least see some of it being transparent. Okay, so now we have that. Everything seems fine, and let's change this top value to 100, just because it's kind of awkward to have it look like 93. Okay, once we're done, we're going to hit OK. Select done. And this is what the map looks like right now. Next, let's just double check the pop. Actually, let's click on one of these things here. We can see there, here's the pop-up. Gives us some of these values here that exist, so on and so forth. Seems to be okay. I think I configured these pop-ups earlier to show what to display and remove, but in case there's a list of here that if you want to configure the attributes, it gives you this pop-up and you can get rid of certain fields that you do not want to have on display, especially if you want to keep things more clean. But I'm fine with this. Feel free to take out some if you would like. And click OK. Let's save this. It's going to ask for a name. So let's call this transit metrics. Of course, it's going to ask for the tags. That's required. Transit, Calgary, metrics. Summary, that's optional. It's usually good practice to have this, to have something filled in here. And make sure you save in your transportation Calgary folder. So we'll save that first. So now we have this map. Next, what we will do is we're going to go now, we'll go back to home. And we're going to go to the contents. And what we're going to do is go up here. And we're going to create a dashboard. So click on that. Let's create one. I have some in the past. Let's see. Yep. Let's give this a meaningful title. So, I mean, I will call this transit dashboard. I know it's not as creative, but for the sake of time, we can just put that in here for now. And then it's going to ask for tags, say transit. The tags are there for people that, anybody that would like to search existing content in the future, they can type in with these tags to see. Hit enter again. And we'll call this dashboard. And then metrics. Make sure it's again in your transportation Calgary folder. That's where we want to save it. And let's create a dashboard. So this is what it looks like. There's these options. For me, I like dark. I think it's just more aesthetically pleasing and better for the eyes that you can see. And next, we have these options here that you can add. What we're going to do is add the map. Now, if you develop the map, the map that we created earlier, the beauty of this is that Esri ArcGIS Online gives you a list of the contents that you already have developed, the map contents. So the one we're going to add is the one that we created earlier. So transit metrics. And we can put the legend, blurry visibility. That's also fine. Base map. So if anybody, folks that want to switch. Search, zoom in and zoom out. Scale bar, we'll add that. These are just standard. And let's see, we can give this a title, I guess. We don't need to do that. That's fine, actually. Map actions, that's not available yet because we haven't added some stuff, and these ones we'll do a bit later. So let's now hit done. Now you see you have your map in the dashboard. We're still not done yet. This is just the beginning of it. This is like, this is more like the display for it. What we're going to do next is add a gauge. This is where the fun starts to begin. And we're going to select that layer that exists in that map. And in this case, we're going to create a gauge for the speed. So we're going to do average. There's a list of statistics in here. And then we're going to select speed, mean, field. That one. Okay, and also let's do a filter because there could be some miscalculated values due to GPS problems that, let's say, was recorded at 125 and then there was another one at 125.30, but the distance was 20 or 30 kilometers, and then it gave a projected speed time of 12,000. That's just a result of GPS failure. So let's just clean out some junk in there. So we'll do speed mean, and let's make sure that it is less than or equal to 110 kilometers per hour, because there's no way that, you know, public transit buses will be going the speed above that. Okay, so we have that. That's fine. Let's check in here in the gauge. So here you see all these options. So we have the meter, which I prefer that because it's kind of more like what you would have in your speed gauge when you're driving. There's just some things you can play around with. I'll keep buying horseshoe. Increments, leave that to automatic. If it's something you don't like, you can do, let's say, 10 increments. I like mine automatic or 20. Thickness, like how thick are these lines you want to project here. So I'll do mine a little bit thick here, 3. Next, this is like something cool. We will do the guides. The guides is something to change the values, like the color based on the value. So we'll do from 0 to 20. And let's set a color of dark red. So that'd be like indicating slow. To 20. 20 to 40. Do like an orange. And, you know, the same thing, we'll do 40, 60, yellow, 60 to 80. Let's just do this nice green, and then 80 to 100, which that's one reliable bus or vehicle. All right. And that seems to be fine. I think I'm missing something else in here. I think it might be the value that we need to add with a suffix. This might be back here. Let's see. Saw it somewhere earlier. Here we go. So we go back to gauge and then go to formatting. Let's do in the suffix kilometers, the space, kilometers per hour. Or I guess gauge is fine too. And yeah, so that one is done. And let's go to the general and let's name that this speed gauge or speed average gauge. Then let's hit done. So now we have the overall speed of the entire transportation system for that 2-hour sample, which is 24 kilometers per hour. Let's click save first, just to make sure of all that hard work we put in here. And what we're actually going to do now is we're going to make this adjust based on the spatial extent. So when you zoom in here, it's going to change the gauge to a different value based on the existing data. That's the cool thing about it. So let's go back here and go to configure. And the one I was telling about map actions, we'll do a filter. And now it has identified targets. We'll do speed gauge average. So that will filter it. And let's also go to layer actions. And let's do, if let's say somebody wants to, I think it might be filter. Let's also do that for speed gauge. This is when the user selects that area. It selects like a specific attributes, it'll adjust as well for that. Let's click done. So now let's just give this a shot and let's zoom in a certain area of Calgary. You're gonna see now the gauge is readjusting here. It's pretty neat. Now we can even go downtown Calgary. You can see, yeah, there's a lot of slow movement. But of course, it's really dense roads. There's a lot of traffic lights. And then let's go out. This is pretty cool. I also want you guys to try this. This is a selection tool. It gives you also these other options. I can do a lasso. And now it's going to select those attributes based on that lasso, and then it's going to update this one here. So I'll give it, try it again so you can see it. And in this case, there's 213 attributes for that selected because there's like a lot of routes underneath each other. So see, now it changed again. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so now let's save this again. And we're going to now add an indicator. So let's go back here and add this. Same thing. This time we're going to do for routes. So we're going to do account is fine, and we're going to get routes. Then what I want is to enable distinct because there's going to be a lot of unique routes in there. And we'll go in here. We'll go in the top text. So it's kind of like the title for it. And say routes available. You can change the color the way you want it. You can even change the sizing for it. I'll leave this as is. And then what's cool about it is that there's these icons. And so if we go here, ArcGIS Online provides a lot of readily available icons that you can view and see. And let me see which one it was that I picked earlier. I don't think it exists. So what we would actually do is you can create a custom one by pasting SVG code. So what I'm going to show is when you do a little bit of Google searching, you do a little bit of Google searching, you type route SVG vector. I'm going to send this URL in the chat. So we can go there. And what we're going to do is we would right click, open image in a new tab. So now you have this SVG, and then to view the SVG code, you can do view page source. And what you want to do is Control A, all this, This is the SVG code to make. And then copy it, so Control C. And then we're going to paste all the SVG code in here. So this is how you could create like a custom one.
So is this how you could steal any SVG off the internet?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So this is like the cool thing. If you're like not satisfied with the existing icons that ArcGIS Online has, you can just either create your own or find somewhere online and just copy that SVG code and just paste it in here. So now you can see it's there. And we can even change the color. So for me, I just like magenta or like a dark magenta color. Yeah. And the same thing for the text. We can change that as well. I think it should be done. Or maybe, actually it's here. So we would change it. There we go. All right, so that's how you do bring custom. And let's again name this indicator routes. That's fine. And yep, I think that's all okay. Let's hit done. And what we're going to do is drag this item. Let's put it underneath here. So we want to have a lot of real estate here for the map. And again, let's go and configure this to make this interactive. So we go again back here, configure, map actions. And I'm going to do the indicator routes. Same thing, filtering. We can also add that as an action, a target, sorry, with this. And let's hit done. So now let's see. Yep, here we go. Now we have a total of 191 routes in Calgary that's available. Of course, this does not include inbound and outbound. So in reality, if you do inbound and outbound, it's going to be double that more. Even if we, again, I think click on it, it should change for us. So the one I did is there's 10 routes. Let's again save this. Next, we're going to do headway metrics. So again, let's go back and do an indicator. Again, select this layer. And we're going to take the average. And we're going to go all the way down that says actual head, HEA. So we're going to take that one. That's the mean of the actual. And I'm going to go then to indicator. Actually, yeah, and we're going to do, after the middle text, we're going to put min. So again, minutes. And then we'll put here as the title or the top text, headway metrics. Okay, again, here's the best part. We're going to bring a, this one won't be actually custom. This one we'll put in just for the sake of this this tutorial to add in a icon that ArcGIS Online has. And I think, if I recall, it's kind of like an analytics looking icon. I think it might be miscellaneous. We can pick this one. I'm trying to see if there's the other one. Yeah, this is the one I want. So if we go to miscellaneous and let's see how many rows down. 1, 2, 3, 4. 8 rows down. If we look near the house, we'll pick that one. And I'm going to give this like a nice blue color. There we go. And we can also change the value, the text if you want. Similarly. Then we'll go to the general. call this indicator headway metrics. Hit done. Let's again do the same thing. It's an iteration here, but we'll drag and bring it in between speed and routes, because that's like, I would say, the second or first most important metric that we want to see immediately. And we'll go again to the configurations, map actions, and add this. And the same thing for the layer actions, the one that we would do with the lasso. Hit done. Let's save this again. All right, now you see it readjust, everything readjusts now, even headway metrics. See how it's like here in downtown. Not looking too good for downtown. Pretty delay. And the last one we're going to add for an indicator is the stops, and we're going to do that same thing. We want to know how many stops there are. So we'll count that. And stop stop ID. They'll be distinct, I think. And then we'll go to indicators. And I'm going to bring in again the SVG file, or for the, going to send the link again for the bus stops here that we have. And again, the same thing, we would right click, get the open image, a new tab, and then page source again. And we just copy that again. And we'll go to the icon left. You can put it on the right side if you would like. Custom, and paste that in there. Let's do stop, the top text as stops. And then give a color for the icon and the middle text. So I like mine orange. And I start orange. And let's say indicator stops. I think this is fine. So let's hit done. And let's drag it one more time here. And let's readjust all this. So I want to see more of the gauge and the headway metrics. Of course, like anything else, when you're designing, the design is what takes usually the most time. Because one of the most important things is when you're doing web design or creating a web app is the user interface and the user experience. You want to have a high quality for both of it. And again, let's do one more time the configurations here. Indicator stops in the layer as well for the target. Okay, and let's hit save. Okay, now let's see. There we go. So now it adjusts. So if we zoom in here, we have 292 stops, unique stops for this area. So this is good information to tell us. But we're not done. I actually want to add something. We're going to add two more things in here. We are going to do a, let's see. Add a header in there. Second. Header, yes. So we go here, header. And let's see, what are we going to do here? Is this it? Yeah, so we're going to create, okay, so we'll call this Calgary Public Transit Performance. Put a subtitle. I will put a logo and I'll provide that as well. Let's see. So we'll go here, copy image, or an image in new tab. Yeah, so then we'll copy this, paste it in here. If we go back to here, paste that image URL, and there you go. Now you see it, it's right here. You can also add the logo URL, so users, they hover over it, they can click on it and bring them directly to their site, but we can just leave it the way it is. And these are other things that you can readjust, aesthetics. And let's hit done for that one. Now go in here, and there's these other things you can add. So you can add a date selector if the layer has a date fields, numbers. For our case, what I would like to know is if I'm a user, a transit user, I want to know the route that I'm taking, and I want to see how good it is. Because this tells you the big overall picture, but it could be really messy, and you might just want to care about that route that you're planning to ride on. So what we do is go back to the header and add the category selector. And we're going to do group values because we have routes, and there's so many of them. There's like some duplicates or repeats that we want to just have them grouped together. I'm going to go all the way down, which says route. The maximum categories, we're going to put 200 and leave it ascending. Let's see what is. Yes, select route. You can say select route for information so the user knows what this is. You can have single or multiple use routes to do. For now, we keep it single, but you could put the multiple for exploratory purposes. And drop down is fine. There's these button bars, but we'll do drop down. And I'll set the display type threshold to 20 so we can see 20 routes at a time. Select none, so we want to clear that if we want to see everything. And let's see. Let's give this a name, category routes. Then we'll go to actions. We're going to add an action here. So we're going to filter it. And then that target is, we can add all of these again. So when we select that route, it's going to change everything. Okay, so now let's hit done. And let's click save. And let's give this a shot. So now let's select a route. I'll pick this one. And now you see it changes everything. So we have one route, 70 stops that serve it. And this is the average speed and the average headwind matrix. We can also do the same thing for a different one. So the one I like is this because it has this kind of a circular loop. It shows all of that. So I thought this was pretty unique. And we have one more thing for our dashboards before we jump to Web App Builder. And what we're going to do is add a serial chart, just like kind of show very basic statistics. I'm going to select that again. And let's see, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the fields, and we're going to add 3 different fields. It's going to be speed mean. It's going to be the actual headway. And then we're also going to look at the expected headway. So it's going to be this first one, headway number 1, this 4. The average is fine. And then we're going to go to charts, see if everything looks fine. We're going to change it to horizontal. Give it a title. We can say metrics or transit metrics performance. Leave it as is. Let's see what a scroll bar do. We can leave that out. And let's change these because this can be a little bit confusing to the audience. So we'll say projected speed, average, actual headway, average. Let's also add here average for speed per kilometers per hour, so they know what that is, even though it shows on the indicators. And we will do minutes. And then we also will say the expected headway. Minutes. So in this case, here we have expected headway of around 26 minutes. So the gap between two buses throughout the entire network. And then based on the calculations that we have an actual headway of around 27 minutes. It's not, that means overall it's not too bad. It's like only 1 minute past its expectations. But of course, it does vary by route. And let's see, we will go. I think this is fine. We can give the axes. Well, this will be different because each of them have different units. And let's see, go to the guides. We don't need to do guides. Now we'll go to the series. We can do by category, and we'll change these colors because we know that they're different. So speed mean can be fine the way it is. We can change the actual headway to, let's say, purple. And then the expected to, let's say, a blue. Then, we can say overall metrics. That's fine. Actions, we won't put anything because we already have the indicators in the gauge telling us to do that. So there's no need to have it redundant. So let's hit done. And then let's drag this down here at the bottom. Actually, a mistake. Let's drag it underneath the map. So do that, and then let's give some space here for the map. And let's hit save. So that's what we have here for our dashboard. This is for the dashboard. Any questions so far? Okay, all right, we're gonna go now. We can go back to our, we'll exit this
We
out.
may have a question coming up.
We do? All right, let's see, is it in the chat?
No, I think I heard somebody unmute. I'm not sure.
Oh, there's always questions towards the end. All right, so let's just make sure we save this, and then we'll X out, or we can go here home into our content. So that's the operations dashboard in a nutshell. Next, what we're going to do is, again, we're going to create another map, web map, but this time it's going to be an animation of it. So let's go back up here and we'll go to Map Viewer Classic. And what I'm going to put in the chat is, again, the URL for the animated layer. This one has like the time field. Of course, it's not real time anymore, but eventually we can, once we have the proper infrastructure set up, then it can become near real time. So I'll send this here in the chat. Take a look. Let's take a look at that. And it's going to be a little bit different. So we go to Final Animation Routes. And as you can see, it is different than it's completely different than the other data set. Instead, what we have is that raw data that has been raw data has been processed into, for each vehicle, their path and their projected speed. Their path is in their coordinates, which is like a polyline. And we have the distance that it has traveled, at least between those two pairs, to calculate that projected speed. And we also have the vehicle movement status. So when there's the number of, so when you have one vehicle and it's going along the path or the route, how many times did that appear as a recording? And then we also have the stop sequence relative to the stop ID. So let's go now back to ArcGIS Online, to our map viewer, and let's just add it. So from the web. Okay, now we have it animated. By the way, another cool thing about when you're adding layers, so you can add layers that exist in your contents or in your organization that you can add. The other thing is there's Living Atlas, which is it's kind of like almost like a crowdsourcing site that folks around the world that they share the content, their own layers, in that you can type in and see if it exists, and if it does, you can add that to your map and even do maybe some analyses depending on it, if it's a feature layer or not. So here, let's go again, change the base map to dark. And all right, so now let's go again, do the styling. Projected speed, which is great. Options. I also want to change this again. So let's do this 100, and yeah, so now it's going to identify manually speaking. So we'll do that again, the same things, 60, 40, and 20. The cool thing is this also shows you kind of the histogram here. Yeah, this seems to be okay. I think we're done. Now you see here, what was different from the other one is this one has an animation, a slider, a time slider. because it's identified an appropriate time field. We're going to configure this because we're not seeing any data because there's no data that exists in this time frame. So we'll go in here, and we can leave the playback speed the way it is. And what we're going to do is, so yeah, it found that January 6, 2021 to January 7th, which this is not entirely true, but we're going to filter this out and do, let's start at 1:25 p.m. because that's when most of the data started to happen. And then we're going to end this January 6, 2021. And we're going to do 3:45 p.m. That's when it finished. Let's see, what is this? It's not valid. Okay, so I guess we'll have to just go and do it the way they wanted to. So there we go. And here we're going to do by the minutes. We can do seconds, but sometimes, even though the duration was every 30 seconds, sometimes there are some GPS points of the vehicles that are not recording that 30 seconds, but rather, let's say, a minute or a minute and a half later due to a latency issue. And we can either display only the data in that time interval, or we can progressively show it all, which I like this one. And you can say, okay. And, we can just give this a shot and just play it so you can see. So now you start to see here over time, these are, I'm just going to pause it. These are like the paths of the vehicles around Calgary. And with that, across time, space and time, we're also showing then the projected speed here. So this is like a pretty unique thing. And it keeps going on and on. So let's save this. Call this animation map. Animation for tags, Calgary, transit, address. And make sure it's saved in your transportation Calgary for housekeeping reasons, and save the map. So we have this. Now, what we're going to do is we'll go back here, our contents. We're going to create a web app builder for it. So let's go here where it says create and web app builder. Notice we also have a 3D option here. We have 3D data, or I'd like to display that. Let's call this web app builder animation app. Tags, animation app, Calgary, transit. And there's some categories in here. We can leave it the way it is. Make sure it's saved in your folder. Hit OK. Now, so web app builder, think that web app builder as a program that you don't want. It's kind of like a quick way to develop web apps without programming involved. So if you are, let's say, you do not you want to do something really quick or relatively quick, or you're not a programmer, or even a beginner in JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, which are the main programs, languages to build interactive apps. This is for you. And even if you are a very first JavaScript programmer, you can still use this. It is amazing. There's another one called Experience Builder, which is pretty much like a robust version of Web App Builder with a little bit of coding or no coding at all, but you can still customize things even further. And in here, what you see, you have all these themes here. You can even click on these and you can see it changes. We have box themes, darts. I mean, still, like I said, the design is what will take time. Take the most time to figure out how you want it to make it really have really clean UX and UI. What I like is I'm still a fan of dashboards, and you can never go wrong with that. Especially since we're doing transportation metrics. So I would click on this, and we can modify the layouts. We can pick these colors, but I like it to get dark. And what I'm going to do is hit this. We're going to just have 3 giant widget tabs here, and then small ones up here. To readjust this, I'm going to go modify layout because I want more map. Click OK. And now we'll go to the map. And let's choose a web map that exists. So remember the animation map that we created. So let's click on this here. Now we have it. Shows all the animation, right? So this is fine. Let's click save just to make sure. And what we're going to do now is we're going to add some widgets. Let's start with the small ones first because that's the easiest. And these widgets are these interactive tools that you can do. Some of these are even doing geospatial processes on the fly, which that's pretty cool. Others are like some simple filtering, infographics, so on and so forth. We can see even the list of these. I'm going to add the layer list here. And we can even change the widget icon, but we're not going to do that because we need to save some images and then upload it like that. Keep these as it is. So we click on this. Now you have your layer list, which will show even the legend right here. And then they can do that to have more real estate. We're also going to add a search. So let's say I want to see, and they give you all these, if you have it, they'll have like geocoding geocoders, but most of the case you will have is the ArcGIS World geocoding one. And this is fine. We can set that up. If we type in, let's say, Calgary International Airport, it starts to pop up automatically some suggestions. So it zooms right in, which is cool. All right. So now what we're going to add also another widget, which we'll do just a simple select. So we can select features. We can keep these options. I like the lasso option. We can add multiple event points. And then the last one, which is my favorite, is the time slider. That's what we're here for, to have this. Unfortunately, the time slider, at least to my knowledge, it's not available in the standard operations dashboard. So that's why we kind of have to do Web App Builder. And of course, to just show another capability in here. So we can allow the user to configure the time settings, or we can just leave it like that. So now let's see, we have these. And it is playing right now as we speak. So the user has to go down here. They can pause it. They can fast forward. And we're going to add like three of these giant ones down here. So now what we're going to do is a infographic. And here are a list of all these things that you can add. So for me, I like gauges a lot. But we can also do these other kinds of gauges in here too. Select this one that's existing. And what you see here is we have descriptions. You can add descriptions, but if it's already intuitive, there's no need, so you can uncheck that. I'm going to edit the title of the infographic first, and we'll call this projected speed, AVG. And you can change this. I like gear amount, bold it, underline it. This seems to be fine. And then we're going to go in here and we'll take the average again. And we're going to select projected speed here. Now this looks so tiny. So what we're going to have to do is readjust it to 100. There we go. And now this seems to be okay. We can actually, we'll just put the suffix here, kilometers per hour. And let's change the fonts, kind of keep it consistent to get around. This is fine. And now here we're going to add the indicators. So we will do is in between 0 to 20. Again, we're going to change those colors. We're going to put red. Let's add another indicator. 20 to 40. Let's do dark orange. Another indicator. It's between 40 and 60. Same thing with your colors, kind of like those rainbow-like colors. $60 to $80. The light green, and then one last one. All right, and one last thing. Let's hit this filter by extent. This does tell you a warning if it could get slow in terms of the testing, depending on how much data is in there, but we'll still turn it on. And we'll call this speed average. Okay. Now we have this here. Don't worry, this is going to readjust over time. Let's click save here. And we're going to add this other widget here. We are going to do again the same thing, infographic, another gauge. Same thing. Let's take out the description. Let's filter by extent. Turn it on. We're going to call this one as estimated time, arrival average. And let's call this here, as the title suggests, estimated time, arrival, AVG. Change it to gear amount. Bold, underscore, underline. You can even add links here, hyperlinks, but we don't have that in this relevant context. And Now what we're going to do is get the average, and it will be arrival TI, or arrival time. Now this shows in seconds the delayness. So minus means it's delayed. And we're going to do a value of 300. We'll do also minus 300. 2 minutes, just over 2 minute delay is not too bad for transportation. And now what we're going to do is, let's actually keep this a little bit clean by having no decimal places. Yeah, we're going to put the suffix of seconds with a gear mound. And yeah, this is fine. And the last thing we're going to do is indicators. Now, the problem with this, I haven't still figured this out, is we can't do negative values in this case. So we'll just have to do the best we can to colorize. And what we're going to do, if it's less than 0, we're going to set it to a red. And then add another indicator. So if it's between 0 and 120, we'll put green, which means it's on time or ahead of time. And then anything past 120 and or let's say anything that's past, so above is greater than 120. We will also put it back to red because we also don't want things to be too early either. Because that could be an indication of that that you were on time, but the bus came early, and could be also an indication that the bus did bus bunching, meaning that it was close to another bus. And I think this is fine, and we'll set that okay. Let's save this again, and then we're almost done with this web app builder. We're gonna do one last thing, and this one will be distance traveled. So again, one more infographic, but no gauge this time. It will be a number. Let's take out description. Icon is fine. And let's filter by extent. Say distance traveled, AVG. Now let's call this title. Here we'll put the title of the infographic to distance travel average. Again, gear mound. Bold underscore. That's okay. Now what we're going to do is take the tab of the icon and let's drag it and put it next to it here. And we can adjust the size of it. The icon, we're going to have to upload an image. So let's see. What we'd have to do is I'm going to upload this image, or I will find the URL link for this and send it in the chat. So then you can download it, upload it. Let's see. Routes. Icon. Distance. Actually, I want to see if we can actually put this. Well, for this demo, I mean, I would say let's do this. You can do this a little bit later, but this is just to show you what it can look like when you have your own image. So you don't need to follow this step in particular. What we're going to do is go into here. Let's take again the average. And we're going to do distance. There we go, that dist value. And let's give it 3 decimal places because this is in kilometers. So in reality, if we take the 0, this decimal place, this would be in meters. And all this kilometers. Here, man. Yeah, that should be okay. And I think that's it. Let's see from this. I think that's it. Filter by extent. And we're done right there. So let's save this. And now what we have is we have these previews things. So this is what's cool about a web app builder is that this shows you how it's going to look like in different resolutions. So for an iPhone, how it's going to look. Of course, we all know it's not going to be. This is pretty awesome. Of course, we all know that smaller resolutions are not going to be the best interface user experience, but it readjusts it for us. So this is pretty cool. Even iPads, how they look. And of course, you can also reconfigure. So if you have your desktop, so 1920 by 1080, that's what it's going to look like. But so yeah, and they also have a QR code to view this on your own mobile device. So that's pretty awesome. The last thing is, so now is let's launch this and see how that looks on your desktop or your laptop. So we have this, and we can do the animation. We can speed it up, or just leave it like that. So this is your web app builder. Now we have an animation for it. Any questions before we transition to insights?
I actually got a question.
Yes.
So is it possible to perform any additional math inside and do additional data processing? For example, with the distance traveled, we know that it's in kilometers. Would there be a way to multiply that by 1,000 and convert it to meters?
I believe, yes. We can, if we go back to configure, and we go, I think this last piece here. They have, I think, hold on. I think it was data. No, it was data. Small places. I thought there was another thing here that would tell you. There was a number that would tell you, okay, you could do thousands or billions. Oh, not decimal place. Oh, units. Yes. So I don't know. Let me see how that looks. Yeah, no. So I think not directly speaking, you can't do that. You would have to go back to the web map and actually let's go back to the content. I'm just going to refresh this. What you can do is, let's see, if it's enabled the layer to edit things. Let's see, settings. Might be great. So because this is shared, you can't edit it, but let me bring up the one and only the actual, that I have it somewhere else in here. So this is another one. If we go, this is the layer that the original layer. If we go in here, there's this data, and there's also fields, and
You could
you can,
process that directly.
yeah, you can change you can add a new field in there and change it. So like you can say, okay, I don't want this in kilometers, I want this in meters.
Makes sense. It looks like this here, the web app builder, really, it's not for data processing, it's more for data release, especially
Exactly.
with their very polished UI for all the different kinds of devices, which is much appreciated.
Exactly. The one though, like, so when we go to Insights is where there you can edit some stuff actually. At least inside there. So now that we got that, let's go back to our contents and go and click on Insights.
I think maybe before we dive into Insights, maybe we want to do another 10-minute break and start that off at 4.
Yes, sure thing.
Because I'm going to at least top up the tea.
Yeah, no worries. I'll get myself some coffee too.
All right. So in that case, we'll resume at 4 p.m. This is going to be another 10-minute break.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Good call, Timothy.
Thank you.
So we have, we already did dashboards, and so that's pretty dynamic. And we also added web app builder, so to make it a little bit more safe, to enhance the UX and UI experience, and that will entails for the animation piece. And now what we're going to do is add a more like a platform called Insights that is meant to do kind of interactive statistics and visualization. Kind of to think of it like as a Tableau version for ArcGIS. And so what I'm going to do is now share the screen, and so we'll go to Insights. Okay, yeah. So to recap, if we go back to, let's say, back to our contents, we go to now here, and it says Insights. That's what we want to click. And here, I mean, this is just the general page, and we'll go to workbooks. Workbooks is where you want to start creating and adding your data, do some modeling, or fiddling around with the statistics and visualization. We also have models. It's just to show the overview of for each workbook that you've done, how it looks to make this into reality, the visualization and the interactive descriptive statistics. You can also add data sets. These are the ones that ArcGIS Online through your own account has able to identify that exists. And another cool thing is that you can connect to folders, OneDrive, SharePoint. If you have enterprise, it would be a database system. And then pages are kind of, think of it as kind of like almost like a PowerPoint, but it's interactive, and that's something is going to be presentable as a HTML file to the user. So let's go to workbooks, and we're going to create a new workbook. And what we're going to do is add now data. So let's see, we go to my contents, and we will have to type in transit. Transit metrics. Are you able to view your data as well? No. Okay. Let's see. Let's see how interesting this can be then. Might be. Let's see. Maybe it won't enable us. Okay, so this is, I'm finding this out too as well. So I guess this is when you need the actual data. So what I'm going to do is this, Timothy, I'm going to compress the zip file and send it to you via email so that you can distribute it amongst the others. And there will be a little bit of delay, but that's what I'm going to do so we can get this interactive.
All right, so the zip files are showing up in chat now. Both of them are Google Drive links, and these should be the working versions. Get these up on YouTube as well.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to add the final metrics first, location, add that to the map. You see here we have, all right, so we're going to change the base map again. So we go over here in the top right versus base maps. We change it to dark gray canvas. And we're still going to show again like the projected speed that we want. So we click on this and we go over. Notice that it actually does a count of how many attributes there are in there. We're going to change it to speed mean.
Sorry, could you go over again how to actually insert that map?
Sure. So there's a location piece here in final transit metrics, and you just drag it over, and it gives you these options. We call it map. That's how it works. The problem with the other one, which I don't know why it doesn't show, the animation should show also the routes. Sorry, not the routes. The location aspect as well. So I'm going to try and see after this workshop and see what the issue could have been, so then I can give the new one. It might have been corrupted. So for now, we're just going to focus on this piece here instead. So we add this to the map, and we're going to click on this here. And right now it's not showing much, but it's just different values. So we need to change this, the color. Make sure that you're selecting the speed mean as the field. And we're going to put it to counts and amounts color. Next, we're going to classify. And let's see. We are going to change, the number, we're going to do manual changes. Let's see. I think Insights is a little bit finicky. All right, we can't change the min and max, at least not directly speaking. So we'll still set these values to 80. Clicking over these intervals, 60. And then 40. And last but not least, 20. Change the colors. We're going over next over to the style. And I'm going to put a thickness of 2. And we're going to scroll all the way down. They don't really have, they do have these colors, but you can't really invert them. But I think we still use this kind of color. And I don't know why is it not showing? It should show. Maybe I need to do it one more time. Let's see. It was showing. Yeah, it was showing earlier. So wait, if I change this again, it might be the. Yeah, I don't know why this didn't show. So something must have. So I'm just going to redo this again. Manual. going to change the colors soon.
I just realized that the Google Drive links are just going out to going out to only one person. The other links.
Well, good news is this is recorded, so you can we can go as trace back. I'm just going to change the color palette again. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to change the thickness to 2 and change the base map to dark gray. There we go. That's what I want to see.
Sorry, how'd you do that again?
Which piece?
The color palette and the base map.
So if we're back here at options, and after the classification, we go
we got
to
classification.
next
I see.
Yeah, style. And then to base maps, we go up here and just change it to dark gray canvas.
I see. Gotcha.
Yep. And so the other thing, what we have, I think the pop-ups, yeah, they should work. So you can still click on it. It gives you the information, speed means 0. And one other thing is we go over here, click where it says card. Let's give this a name. Speed, average speed. Yeah, average speed. And cool thing is you can actually flip the card over, and then you can give a description of what it is. And this also gives you an overview, a very quick overview of statistics. Of course, in our case, there isn't really, actually it does tell you for the speed, like it's around 24, the average for the entire layer. So we're not done here. We're gonna add do a few things. One other housekeeping is, let's do a filter here. And what I want is, let's do 90 just to keep it a little bit cleaner. It'll apply and it'll change just slightly because there's not many attributes that are over 90. And next, I'm going to do is going to add some charts. Before I do that, there's this thing here, the action button. And this is where you can do some spatial analyses if you, depending on the context in the case study. So if you have some points, you can do some clustering. You can also do buffering drive times. Of course, these are at the cost of credits that you would do in spatial aggregations. So this is like on the fly, the spatial analysis, which is pretty cool. There's also these things that they ask you. So how is this distributed? And we can do a histogram of this and see, okay, how does the speed mean it's distributed? And we can run that. And the neat thing about this with Insights is you can change the number of bins interactively. And you can also click on this and then it changes the map, these attributes automatically. So it's really interactive. So if it's like you care about, okay, I want to see the speeds that are over 60, or at least between 60 or 59, 64. So you can find these segments where the vehicle has traveled through, the vehicles have traveled through. And then if you want to see those that are really slow, then there, you can just see that. So it's just clicking for when you do histogram. This also applies to other charts as well. So if I want to do, let's say, speed mean and the actual headway, just to see how it looks, we click on these two, and then we drag it. And what we're going to do is you can create a chart, and then it gives you these options right now, right there. Do a scatter plot. And, you can even click on one of these and there, boom, like you click a random point, it will filter this and it would also find that segment right there. So it's right up there. Same thing, you can keep going on and on. If we want to see specifically those there, we can also then it'll filter these. So everything is interconnected. Let's call this average speed mean versus average actual headway. And this one as well, let's call this histogram. Now let's see, I think this might still be applied. What I want is go back here in the map, again, the action buttons. How has it changed? Or let's see. Yeah, we don't have time series in this one. That's what I wanted to do. Actually, I think we can still do maybe animation one. Arrival time, projected speed, and arrival time. So let's see if we do that. We're gonna have to filter some stuff here. If we go to the animation one, if we were to add that, it's projected speed and arrival time. And let's filter the projected speed. Let's keep it 90. And then the arrival time is going to be some ridiculous values. So as you can see, the lowest was minus 50,000, which there's clearly an error or mistake. So what we're going to do is say minus 900 seconds. That seems more reasonable. And I think there is also another piece that is still, we still need to filter. So we have to do again, another filtering. So let's filter this to 1,000. Now let's see if we can change this coloring. It's a little bit. Okay, we can make this, we can change this a little bit. The background color of it. I actually wanted to see travel time. Hold on. I think I may have gotten this a little confused. Sorry about that. Projected travel time. Seconds. So I want to show some prediction. I think may need to, let's just delete this because this doesn't tell us anything right now. What we'll do is this. We will we go to chart statistics for the one that we created for actual headway versus speed mean. And let's put linear, and then gives us an R square value, 0.228. So that's what I want to see. We can do that. And let me see if there's another one. If we can do prediction, let's see, maybe it might be through here. Forecast, time series, control. see, what would this tell us to do? Yeah, there's no time field, so we can't run that. Thing is, if we actually have the time field from the animation, we could do actually more things. But the idea is just to show a little bit the interaction that you can put some statistics and filtering on the fly so that anybody can see this. And they care about like low speed or bad projects or bad headway metrics, then they can filter that and then find that where is it actually happening. So let me see if I can do one more thing. It's exciting, but I know there could be more things if we had more data. And let's see, how has it changed? Nope. How is it distributed? Well, we can also add headway, which that's what we'll do. Another headway for the histogram. My apologies. We'll do that. So we'll pick actual headway, and we run that. And then do the same thing here. Mean median. So that's a useful feature. And again, we can actually make could be a little bit more granular with the headway. So we want to pick those that are 10 to 23. Those are a little bit more frequent. This tells you all these routes right there. And then it adjusts this as well. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty unique. So let's just save this. I wanted to do a little bit more stuff, like for instance, how to create new fields, especially for the time piece. Yeah. You know, since Timothy, you asked for the distance to change it, we can still do it in here now that you have the actual data. Go to view table, and we're going to add a new field. And then what it shows you is all these functions that they have with information, what you can do, and of course these fields. So what we'll do is we'll take the distance and we'll multiply it by 1,000. You see the check mark means it's pretty valid. And we will call this a distance in meters. And we'll hit run. And there you have it. So this is how you can redo this. So let's just save this, and we're almost done because we have to do story maps. And before we X out of this insights, it's just in a nutshell what you can do. We're going to share this as, if you put down here next to page 1, share as. And we're going to call this interactive stats transit page. And we could add the tags. And we can share this with everyone if you want. Hit share. Depending, of course, the infrastructure of wherever the servers are. Some of them are going to be faster to publish than others. But this tells you this is the URL. You can also find that in your contents, which I will show. Also, if you're doing things in JavaScript, this is your iframe, which is pretty cool. And then this is the page item that you can access. So we can click actually go for that. And there you have it. This is your insights page. And it still is interactive for anybody that would like to see it. So now we finished insights. We're going to do one last thing, is story maps. And story maps is a way to present all of the stuff that we just created into a very presentable format. And of course, as the word describes, you're giving like a story. And there's so many things out there of how you can design it. But what I will show, what we're going to do in this case is we're going to have a crosstab version of this. And I'm going to share this link. Let me just find that hyperlink. I have it somewhere hovering.
Another quick question for you that popped up in chat. Is it also possible to generate reports for like a select time period? Or the other one is to put these in PDF without using ArcGIS Online?
Yes, you can do PDFs. If we go back here, we can print page. And then you have that PDF options here. Of course, you're going to have to make some adjustments to it, but yeah, PDFs is also pretty popular. And I didn't catch the other question.
Is it possible to generate reports for a select time period? So if we had the time in the time slider in there, could we like focus on specific times, I assume?
Yeah, yes, we can. And that's here. Let me see. We have these filtering options. And if we have the location of which, like I said, I have to figure that out and test it out. And if it actually works, then I'll send that along the way. But the filtering is what it does. That you can set certain time periods. And if it's, let me see if it's this one. So we have a lot of these times being filtered in there. Normally what you would see is, and I'm going to bring in the other stuff that I did when I was testing it out. So let's see, it must be this one. Yeah. I'm going to open this up. Okay, so this is what I want to show earlier, is to get this kind of stuff, the speed over time, and for the animation piece, and also we're looking at speed mean versus the actual headway, and to do some predictions. This is what I want to show. And I can, of course, share this and even give the data to make it valuable. But what I was, for the time piece, you would see these subfields in here that it detected. That's where you can filter it. And let's say, okay, I actually just want the hour. And that's what I wanted to demonstrate earlier. So it's like, okay, I want it between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. And then it will be reapplied, and then this changes everything else with that. That's what I want to show. And I don't know what happened with the one that I shared the data with you guys. So I have to investigate that and then give it to you, and give you also this deck, so then you can try it yourself. Okay, other questions? Okay. All right, so now what we're going to do is go to story maps. And I'm going to bring up this page first. We're almost done. We have just 15 more minutes at most left. If we go to, I guess, let me see, does it bring? You know what? Let's go back to our contents page. So make sure we save this. And let's go back to our contents. And lastly, what we're going to do is create a story map. So you go back here, you see this icon that says story maps. Click that. And story maps, they have tutorials, webinars, how to get started with this, and they also have collections from your organizations. You can create a new story, and these are the quick starts that you can do in like different formatting. They even show you. So like, this is what I mean, like you can add contents. You can add, so in here, you can see there's a map, and then on the left, there's a panel that when you scroll through, it will change and readjust to the geographic origin, the spatial location. And this would have like, let's say, an image and some textual content in there. So there's like there's a lot of story maps in here. And instead, but what we're going to do is we're going to do a crosstab version, and I'm going to send this URL link because it cannot be found directly in here to the chat. Page. Right. There we go. To everyone. So if we click on this URL link, these are like galleries of it for the story maps. And the one that I wanted us to have is a crosstab. If we click on this story map, you can see how they did this. This is pretty interactive, and they give you all this information. In this case, it's unemployment, population changes, relationships, so on and so forth. So this is one of many examples. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to build a map series from that crosstab. That's where we're going to embed the operations dashboard, the web app builder, and the insights into one. Because that's just, I find this a more efficient way to do it. See, they also have these other ones here, so we can even view a live example of that. And see that they have these ways to interact. Again, no programming expectations are required. So this is awesome. So we'll hit the tab, hit start. We'll call this Transit Calgary Transit Metrics. Okay. Now, see if we do a map, we can select it and it can find the stuff that you've created in the past. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the web pages back. So to do that, let's see, is we're going to go back to our contents. Let me just go back to our contents page. And we refresh this. Go to Transit Dashboard. There's this URL link down here. This is something you want to copy. And also one other thing, what we would like to do is, let's go back to our main folder, and we want to make sure that these are shareable to everyone, because we want to present this to the audience. Because if somebody wants to view this story maps in the dashboards, and there's restrictions, then it's going to ask for the login credentials. So we need to make sure that these are, especially when to the public audience, that it's available. So hold on, I just realized I created a cross tab in different accounts, so I want to do it in here to keep it consistent. So if you copied your dashboard URL, what you want to do is go to the web page. And you want to paste that item in there. So I'm just going to go back to my contents and do that. Copy this. And paste that in here, configure. It gives you all these customizations, these options. We're going to call this dashboard because that's the tab that we were going to show. And we're going to add that. So now you have this, you have your dashboard in there. That's one tab. We have two more tabs to go to do this. So we're going to add another one. Again, web page. This time we go back again to our contents. And we go to our web app builder. So it's going to be a web mapping application. And going to go all the way down here where it says the URL. Going to copy that. Going to paste that back into the web page link, configure that. I'm satisfied to having it filled. And we're going to call this animation because it has the animated component. I'm going to add that. Then last but not least, we will add one more. And we're going to call this insights. And again, we've got to copy that URL. So we go back to the contents of ours. And if it wasn't saved in your transportation folder, you may want to go back to your home page. All my content here. And yep, this is where it's saved. And you want to click on that. Actually, hold on. Nope, that's not what we want. We want actually the page itself, not the insights application. The page, there it is. That's what we want to have. And let's see, open in ArcGIS Insights, and then we will have to copy this URL link up here. So then we go and paste that in here. And then we add that. So now let's make sure that this is saved. And one last thing is let's edit some stuff here. There's some layout options that we can change, map options, themes. So if you don't like this color, these other color options. The header. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to my logo, and I'm going to put the URL link for York University. You can also put the ITE logo as well. And I'm going to paste that in here in the chat so everybody can have that readily available. I'm going to paste that here. And I'm going to put the link to York University. So https, I think it's yorku.ca. And let's apply that. I think there was some excessive spacing in there, so we tried that. That was with no logo. Yeah, so we have to make sure we get rid of that piece. There we go. And then let's apply. It should show, unless I don't see it. Oh, sorry. So it's actually, we want to click on this and then put it in there like that. And then we do like that. There we go. Now I see the York University. I was like, this should work already. And then we have that there. So save that. And now we can view this. And there you have it. This is what we have. Making sure everything is fine. Animation. And then we also have our insights. So there we go. So now we have a story map, and embedded we have an operations dashboard, a web app builder, and ArcGIS Insights. So we have 4, 3, and 1, which uses 4 different things. And that's that. You know, if please subscribe to our listserv. You'll get like some weekly updates of what we do, or new Esri products are out there, educational stuff that we publish as well. If not, we also have a Twitter, so it's at gis.for-agud. So that's the showcase of this transit workshop. Any questions?
I guess hearing that. So for the data that you've gathered here, was everything directly from the GFTS standard?
Yeah, it is.
So,
It was from the GTFS real time, and it was processed in Python. It was a lot of scripting. So, and now it's just a matter of to pipeline all of that architecture. If you remember that PowerPoint slide, once when that's done, then you're going to see, at least in this example that we did today with the dashboard, the web app builder, it should it'll be more like real time, or more, there'll be more information. So what we did was that we only did it for 2-hour sample for January 6th.
of course, this means that if you have, say, a year's worth of data, how long do you think that would take like a server to process that? Because of course, one of the bigger advantages here is everything's cloud hosted, right?
Yes. So for the 2-hour sample that I tried on my 8-core machine in parallel, it took about 6 minutes. Of course, this is not with publishing. I haven't tested the automatic publishing yet. So we're looking at, if we do an hourly basis, it will be between probably 3.5 to 6 minutes to get that through and onto that into the WebGIS here. With daily, so at the end of the day of that 14 hours of data being collected on that 96-core machine, it will take about 15 minutes. So because we're using 96 cores, so it's a really fast scale up factor. We actually have thought of, we're still kind of thinking of doing this. I mean, I've been doing this myself, but my colleague, he's pretty knowledgeable using Apache Hadoop. So we're trying to see if we can do this rather than vertically scaling things vertically, which basically means like using all cores in one machine, instead doing it horizontally. So having several computers or servers to do that, to probably maybe making it faster to, let's say, 10 or 7 minutes. We try to do speed is also is the biggest thing here.
One day, the ability to analyze everything in real time.
Yes, exactly. So that's like the main the goal. I mean, there's still quite a while. This project just was started back in December, but it didn't really kick off until January. So it has matured, but it still has it still has a road to pave through.
Awesome. So a question coming up in the chat. For story map, do you have to own all the data? So have the rights and the privileges for, say, Insight, web app, photos, all the material that you're posting, etc.
Story map, you have to own, have right privileges. Not entirely sure what the question really means. Like, does it mean that you need to have all the data, your own data, to do that?
Or I guess, do you have to have the legal right to I guess, publish that data before it goes out live? Or if you're playing around with data that you don't have the right to, is that still above board as long as it stays within your own private application?
I think, I mean, because we had that issue, right, when we did with Insights, that we couldn't actually alter those fields because it was owned by somebody else. So I think it was already a kind of like a fail-safe, just to make sure nobody corrupts it. The only way you can do is within your organization, is they would have access. So I'll share the screen again to show what I mean by that. And let's see. Go back in here. Content. Okay, let's refresh that. No, hold on. I actually have the actual data in here. Let's see. If we go in here, it might be the settings. Don't remember it all on top of my head. Date might be under the settings. So there's this option here that if I approve this layer to be shared with the public when editing is enabled. So I think what this is, I never tried this, but is if this is enabled, then the public itself could edit it themselves as well. Oh wait, editing. So if you enable editing, anyone, including the public, can edit the layer. So yeah, so you can do that. But the owner itself has to enable these options.
And I think the other sort of insight that comes out of this question is it okay to take somebody else's, say, web app or Insight or photo or whatever that they generate and include that in your own story map?
I think it is okay to have to do that as long as it's like publicly available, like that public URL links. And I think just like in research, when you're citing some, it's always like best to cite the organization or the person who has done this work. So it is fine, and you can find that in the Living Atlas. It's not just like the layers, but applications that people have shared. So then that could be added to your content as well. So yeah, short answer is yes. Long answer is yes, but make sure it's always best to just give that person credit for it.
And also check out the Living Atlas. I've poked around in there a tiny bit, and there's so much content out of there.
It's a lot.
It really is quite amazing.
It's definitely a lot of content. Sometimes you don't know where exactly to find things.
Awesome. Any other questions? Okay.
No, I think we got.
I think we're good. Okay, perfect. Before we go, First off, a big round of applause to Anastassios for his great presentation. Quite the marathon and a lot of knowledge coming out here. But we'll absolutely make the recording available on YouTube later on so that you guys can go back, rewatch it, and play around with things a tiny bit more. Also, we do have a couple of announcements to make. So, two big things. The first one is the ITE Traffic Bowl is coming up yet again. We are the defending champions this year, having won the Canadian District Traffic Bowl last year in the fall. We need competitors to help keep that trophy here so that it can actually make it into our office for once. Sign up is due by April 20th so that we can finalize the team. And the competition will be held on Tuesday, June the 8th, as part of ITE's conference in June. It's of course all going to be still held virtually. In terms of the elections, that's also coming up. I'm not going to be around forever. My term is coming to a close, and we need your help. The executive team needs your help. We need people to come in and nominate themselves to be part of the executive team. So that's also due on April 29th, so that we can get things finalized for our elections and our end of year social, which will be held on Saturday, May the 1st, starting at 7 p.m. and going later on into the evening. We've got two QR codes in here for you. The top QR code with the little dinosaur will take you to the sign-up sheet for the ITE Traffic Bowl, and the bigger QR code will take you to the nomination so that you can sign up and become an ITE or nominate yourself to become an ITE executive. We look forward to seeing you guys at the elections and hope that you do at least come out, participate, and vote, if not nominate yourself. And finally, we realize that exam season is upon you, so best of luck with all of your exams. Once again,
wishing you guys all best of luck with the exams and the ending of the term.
Once again, a great big thank you to Anastassios for coming out and teaching us all of this. This is a great skill to have. This is great software to use. And now you guys have accounts to work with it too. And thank you, of course, to all who attended. We hope that you found this session helpful, useful, and entertaining as always.
Just want to give one final note and put it in the chat. We also have tons of resources in here with the URL link. And so this is our site. I'm going to share just the last, just for one last moment before we adjourn. So here we have this is our education research page. And, this is for students that are using GIS, specifically Esri stuff, that have questions. They can come to us. That's what part of our job is, to help out students. And we also have this resources, and it lists all of these different types of products that are out there. So the one we did is online, and you can see that there is 38 resources currently available that is downloadable for free. So there's a lot of these that you can try for yourself. So that's us. I just wanted to show that before we adjourn.
Awesome. Let's steal that share screen back. And I think that brings us to a close for today. So thank you, everyone. Take care and best of luck with your exams. And hopefully we'll see you at the end of your social.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye.